In this video, we learn how to use Retrofit library. First, we log into our API and get a bearer token. We get a list of items from API. We learn how to insert an item. And we learn how to update an item. And we learn how to delete an item. In this video and 3 next videos. Create a new project and name it Retrofit Training and set Minestica to 24. First, go to Visual Studio. I created a server here, and in my server I have a notes table. Each note have an ID, title, description, and is done. And I added 6 dummy notes. I also have a users table. I added one user, a@gmail.com, with password A. And I also had created a notes API. If we want to use this API, we have to send or request to this URL. If we want to get a list of notes, we have to send a GET request to API notes, and our server returns a list of notes. If we want to get a single note, we have to send a GET request to API notes and pass ID of that note. If we want to update a note, we have to send a POT request to API notes and ID of that note, and send the note to body and ID to pass. If we want to insert a note, we have to post a note to our body and to API notes URL and pass note to our request body. If we want to delete a note, send a delete request to API notes and ID of that note. And last, if we want to log into our API and get a bearer token, we send a post request to API account login, and our API returns a bearer token. Now run our server and go back to Android Studio. Go to build.gradle. First, we add 4 libraries. This library for using Google JSON, to use Retrofit library, for converting data, and the last one for a large request and response to large chat. Sync the project. Now go to manifest file. First, we add 2 permission. First one internet, and the second one access network state. We launched our server in localhost. To let our app send request to that, we have to set network security config. We set we have to send this network security config. Create a new directory and name it XML, and inside that create a new XML file and name it network security config. Now we change this file and add the address of our localhost to this. Change the root element to network security config and remove this namespace. Add another tag domain config and set a property to it, clear text traffic permitted to true. Add another tag domain and set include subdomains property to true. And go to our server and fetch server URL without HTTP and without port number and paste it. In our server we have a node table, so in our app first we create a class, node class, and we specify four variables: ID, title, description, and is done. Press Alt and insert and create getter and setters and create an empty constructor. Create a constructor with 4 parameters and create a constructor without ID. Now it's time to create our service. Add another package and name it service. Add another class to our service and name it iService. We want it to be an interface. Inside this interface, we specify the requests that we want to send to our API. First, we create a method to get a list of items. Next, create a single item to insert an item in our API, to update an item, to delete an item, and at last we create a method to get a token from our server, a login token. Our first method is if we go to our server, to get a list of items, we have to send a GET request to API nodes. So we use GET API nodes, and it returns a call of type array list of nodes, and we name our method GET nodes. To get a single node, we have to send a GET request to API nodes and ID of the nodes that we want. So we use GET and the path and use a call. This returns a node and name it GET node, and we have to set this ID of type int, and we send it in our path. So use path ID int ID. To insert a node, we have to send a post request to API nodes, and we have to send a node in our body, in request body. So use post and URL, and it return a call of node and name it insert node, and use the body node of type node. To update a node, we have to send a put request to API nodes ID, and we have to send this ID in path and node in body. So use put the address. This return a call of node and name it update node. The ID is in our path, so use path, is of type int, and the node is on our body of type node. To delete a node, we have to send a delete request to API nodes ID, the ID of nodes that we want to delete. And our API will delete that node. So use delete the address, and it return a call of node. Name it delete node, and the ID is in our path. To log in our user and get a token from our server, we have to send a post request to API account login. And we have to send a login binding model which has a username and password. And we have to send a grant type which equals to password. So use post the address, or API return a call of a string, return a bearer token which is a string, and we name our method login and send three methods. We don't use path or body, we use field. Our first field is grant type, name it grant type of type string. Our second one is username of type string, and our third is password of type string. Because we used the field, because we use field instead of path and body, we have to use form URL encoded. And to server to accept this request and to accept this request, we have to add a header. We have to add this header to our request. Thank you for watching.